Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories, and today we're going to talk about how did a character in your party die unexpectedly, part 2. Our Goatkin Paladin was given a silver ring by a skeletal rider that visited him in the middle of the night. A couple of days later he puts it on and instantly dies. Luckily, he was still an undead and kept full control over himself. He just got some new racial bonuses. Not necessarily my character, but one of our party in-game. We were running a modern setting based a little too much off of Dimension 20's Unsleeping City. Our DM loved giving out random magic items without much thought, so we all got crazy things time and time again. Amongst us all, there was a magical instrument for the bard, magic guns for the gunslinger fighter, a portable laboratory for the Sorlock, followed by random extensions to said lab because the PC's reaction was funny enough for the DM to laugh for 5 or so minutes. The wand of Orcus for the Clairlock. Then we had the hand and eye of Vecna for the wizard, the sword of Kos, important later on, for the monk, and I can't remember off the top of my head what my Eldritch Knight had gotten. In-game days after we got a majority of these items, the monk had randomly gotten the Sword of Kos, yelled like a mother telling the others to not come near or touch the sword, as they were gonna dispose of that evil thing. My character decides to touch it regardless, and I tried my best not to metagame and say, "You know what? You're right, get rid of it," while I was being influenced by it. Later, my character was convinced to take it with them to see the party's wizard. And almost immediately after we all sat down, the DM asks all of us to make a save, of which I cannot remember. The Bard, Wizard, Monk, Clairlock, and myself were all present, and we all took an inconsistent amount of unknown damage, all because the wand, eye, and hand, and sword were all in the same room. Each of us taking somewhere between 80 and 100 damage if we didn't save. Well, the monk saved, but had the least health due to the DM's random health gifts to the players that made it to more sessions. And so, they outright died. Thankfully, shortly after that mess, we all told the DM to press that big reset button on the campaign. Some left regardless, some stayed, and the DM isn't a magic item crazy anymore, so there's that? Well, 2 stories from the same party. I'm not even the DM for this game. Story 1. The DM gave one party member a water elemental. This party member was not too awfully bright. This player proceeded to shove another player through the elemental, and second player drowned to death because of it. Story 2. The DM had a trapped room set up in this dungeon. Same party member who had caused the drowning of another player went in there alone, looked up at the ceiling, was able to tell that the ceiling had some sort of demon painting on it, then squish. Theoretically, the party could have saved him, but all of us in character were kind of upset about him killing another party member earlier. Vengeance is swift and crunchy. Spoilers for Icewind Dale, you've been warned. A barbarian in my party was, blessed, wink wink, by the first maiden, and when we faced her, a Ural was not pleased. He joined us, so she revoked the blessing. Our barbarian wasn't pleased, so when we were nearly defeated, the barbarian tackled the Frost Maiden off of the tower we were fighting her on. Did enough fall damage to bring her to her final phase, the Gem Phase. Now, thanks to the barbarian subclass, no matter how much damage was done to him until he reached 1 HP, he couldn't go down. The tackle off the tower brought him to 1 HP. And the final stage of a Ural has a frost AoE effect causing 10 damage per turn. Needless to say, he was turned into a frozen statue, and the Frost Maiden flew back up. I finished her off with my fire breath, but damn was that AoE effect surprising to us. We had acquired a gem used for imprisonment and had the thought that maybe someone was inside it. We find out instead that something escaped it, and we now were on a mission to recapture them. What none of us knew was that the gem could not be handled by bare skin, and our Warforged had been holding on to it and was thus unaffected. So one of the other players asked to hold it to cast a spell or ritual to locate the escaped prisoner. And when they touched it, the defenses activated and the randomly rolled spell caused Finger of Death to be cast on them, killing them and making them a zombie whose purpose was to guard the gem. Here we have a continuation of bootleg D&D. Hee-haw! The kleptomaniac party member had since retired and her grandson joined the party. I believe he was a mage or some similarly squishy class. His player refused to accept that mages couldn't equip full friggin' plate mail, so I told him after a boss dropped some nice plate mail that we could roll con to equip it. Mind you, his highest related stat was a 7. His int more than made up for it, but in order to pull this off, he'd have to have rolled a nat 20. He did not. Here's the silly part. The dice app rolled a 1. The player was not happy and threw a minor tantrum, but accepted his stupidity. I ruled that his character fell down and started rolling around like a turtle trying to get out of the armor. We continued the next session, but one of the players looked at the map and said, "Hey, wasn't he right next to the cliff?" Sure enough, he was. The player facepalmed and said tiredly, "Yeah, I deserved that." Turns out plate mail does not make a good sled on steep, icy terrain. I have won as a GM in my Pathfinder group. High five to more Pathfinder people, am I right? The party was backtracking an attack on an underwater city of shark skin walkers. After fighting an island full of werewolves, they found the pre-cataclysm mage tower that was at the bottom of this deep lake. They find a way inside and discover this mage tower belonged to an ancient dragonborn empire, and this was a mage assassin tower. The party found a dead lichen and open empty boxes. They find one box that detects a strong abjuration aura coming from it. Checking for traps, the catfolk rogue sees there are none. One person in the party voices a word of caution as he unlocks the box. The rogue responds, "It'll be fine. It's not like it's going to kill me." He opens the box and holds out this beautiful dragon brooch. The next thing he knows, it turns to life. He fails a DC 25 reflex save and it burrows into his chest, right to his heart, killing him instantly. The item in question is actually called the Scarab of Death. Think the scarabs from the Mummy movie? Oh, I hate that. Just changed into a dragon in flavor text. Luckily, a party member had Breath of Life prepared and managed to rescue him from his untimely yet hilariously timed demise. Fun fact number 1. This event was right before our rogue wanted a mini break from the campaign. He was to be kidnapped by the undead for a dark ritual for Urgathoa in relation to a dark spot on their character. This gave the player the break they wanted while the party rushed to rescue them from an undead bone ship. Fun fact number 2. This tower showed in my prequel game I played using Game Master mode from the game Divinity Original Sin 2, which is a good game. This is where the Dragonborn Assassin Clan's alchemist worked in the tower to invent the device, and also happened to be its first victim. There was an alchemy room in the tower that was bloody and fitted the theme so well that I just had to use it. The sorcerer asked Zariel why she looked like a bitch. Immolating gaze instantly knocks him unconscious, but she rolled low so he doesn't die instantly. She teleports to the party and says, "Now you serve me." They deceived an Aranes into thinking they were agents of Bel, who they thought was the ruler of Avernus due to a failed wisdom save. And he is subservient. Then the rogue, in an attempt to have him reincarnated by his eldritch patron as a cultist, stabs him in the back. He is now dead, and the rogue's attempt fails. I had him roll for divine intervention, looking for a roll of 3 or lower. Zariel is understandably very annoyed. "I require complete obedience. You shall follow my instructions to the letter." She resurrects the sorcerer as a tiefling of Zariel under the Gaius spell to serve her. "He is now your superior. You will serve him." I really didn't want to have a character die 3 sessions in. They are taken to a small settlement of demons, which they are to clear out. They attempt to infiltrate it through trade, but they only have a hand crossbow. The shadow demon ruling the settlement offers them 55 gold pieces, and you get to keep your lives. The sorcerer, who is currently on 1 HP, replies, 55 and a tour of the settlement. You would rather have a tour than your lives. 55 and a firm handshake. The demon grasps his hand, making a claw attack, and the sorcerer falls unconscious for the second time this session. The other sorcerer flees, leaving him to die, eaten by a horde of demons. Listen, when you look a gift horse in the mouth, you're gonna ask for death. Just don't do it. Had a vampire spawn in the party who, because of his vampirism, was slowly turning evil and was trying to avoid feasting on other party members. Eventually, he snapped and ended up killing one of the party's horses. The barbarian, obviously not the brightest character in the party, attempted to suppress the spawn by driving a stake into his heart, forgetting this does work for a vampire, but instantly kills a spawn. It was probably for the better, as the spawn would have attempted to kill another party member. Another story that I have would be from Tomb of Annihilation, where the party's barbarian had a hatred for Dragonborn because of past in which Dragonborns killed his entire tribe. Because these were our first characters, I was unaware of this and had rolled up a Dragonborn rogue. Oh, that's gonna be fun. It took the barbarian a while to figure out that my character was a Dragonborn. He had been concealing his identity as he was a thief and was avoiding capture, but once he did, he decided to steal the rogue's tongue through his hatred and trying to avoid outright killing another party member. We had just finished combat though, and the rogue had low health because of it. The barbarian's unarmed strike to steal the tongue dealt enough damage to down the rogue, and none of the other party members could save him. The healers were elsewhere, and those that were there failed their medicine checks. This was my first character death, first of many in Tomb of Annihilation, yeah, as usual, so I was slightly disappointed, but got over it quickly. My other characters' deaths in Tomb of Annihilation, spoilers for the Tomb of the Nine Gods section, include Triton Sorcerer, killed in the Tomb of the Nine Gods by drinking water that dealt damage as one of the effects it could do. Eladrin Wizard, killed by the disintegration ray from an invisible beholder pretty much as soon as he entered its lair. Fairy Ranger, beaten up by 10 skeleton minotaurs, oh Jesus, while the rest of the party tried to figure out a maze so he could descend to the next layer of the dungeon. His body was then dumped in acid. Needless to say, the Tomb of the Nine Gods is very strange in the way it deals with the party and lends itself well to unexpected deaths. Also, the image of a small fairy being beaten the piss out of by 10 skeleton minotaurs is now burned into my mind as a hilarious thing. It wasn't the sleep gas trap that killed my mage. No. It was the party putting his unconscious body in the sarcophagus and closing the lid as a joke. He'll catch up. Spoilers, he didn't. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, leave a comment down below letting us know how a character in your party or your character died unexpectedly. We love you all. Be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.